What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and you're tapped into Continue or Nah, which is a series that I created where I let you know about something that I've watched or that I'm reading, and I let you know whether you should check it out or you should gnaw it, throw it in the trash, and find something better to watch or read. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Sinners, okay? So let's get into it. Continue. If you have the opportunity to go see Sinners, please go see it. I saw it yesterday, which would be Saturday, with my family, and we enjoyed it, okay? We all gave it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Now, a lot of people were like, what you mean 8.5 out of 10? But we all came to the same consensus where we were like, everyone hyped it up so much online that we thought we were going to have like this otherworldly experience, but we still enjoyed the movie. Sinners is definitely a movie that the more you watch it, like you go back and watch it over and over, the more you will fall in love with it. So it's definitely going to be on my Halloween list where I watch movies like spooky movies during Halloween, because it's such a really it has a heart. Okay, it's a movie with a heart. It's a movie where you know for a fact that Ryan and his team, they did their research, that the actors and the actresses and the film crew, like you can tell people enjoyed doing this movie, and it's a thriller slash horror movie with a heart, and I enjoyed it. Okay, I enjoyed it. Like I said, 8.5 out of 10, because I wanted an otherworldly experience based off of the way that people were behaving on Twitter and TikTok. But what I got was something familial. I think that's how you pronounce the word. Sometimes I be tripping over my words over here. Because I am a black girl, a southern black girl, a southern Christian black girl whose families are deeply rooted in the South. Both sides of my family are from South Carolina. And I remember listening to stories from my grandparents, from my great grandparents, talking about the juke joint and how they wasn't allowed to go over there. They needed to be in church. I have heard stories about my older family members, because I have like a family tree, talking about them being sharecroppers and how they had to wake up at the crack of dawn to go pick cotton and make quotas. Like, if it was like a movie where I'm just like, I know these people. Like, I have probably met these people growing up at church who were telling us stories, and I just thought it was just beautiful. The way they added the Native American people, the Chickasaw people, I hope I'm saying that correctly, them being a part of the story. And, they were in Mississippi until they were forcibly removed. It was part of, I think, also the Trail of Tears to move them to Oklahoma. And then some of them came back to their land, so they're still in Mississippi. The Chinese American people being in Mississippi, I feel like people often forget about them. They ignore them, like that. Some of them weren't brought over here willingly. Some of them forced to be another sign of like cheap labor, having them work in the fields with black people who are sharecroppers picking cotton, them setting up locations in Mississippi along the Delta. It's just like they did their homework, and it's like that I feel is what's missing in Hollywood and like movies today, is like movies with like purpose and like heart behind it. Like, I'm not really the biggest fan of like thrillers and horror movies, but like if you can make me laugh while watching it and there's like purpose behind it, like you have a point. And what I mean by purpose, it always doesn't have to be like some type of social commentary. Like, the plot just needs to be good. And the plot and the social commentary was good, and it wasn't heavy handed. It was just like, I remember these things. I've heard about these things, especially when Anne was talking about, the Hanks and like, the charm she made for Smoke. Like, it was just like, I know these things. And I loved it. Okay. I loved it. Okay. I need Hollywood to stop like stifling people, because when you don't stifle, you get good movies. You get movies that like people are going to be talking about. People can pull so many things from, like, people can compare other good like iterations of it to it and just enjoy it even more. Like, movies are meant to be enjoyed and like you're supposed to get something out of it, like the same way music is supposed to like be a gateway to other things. Like the movie was just good, y'all. So if you have the opportunity, please go see it, please. So let's discuss. Okay, so the things I want to talk about, I'm gonna have to say spoiler because I would ruin it if you haven't seen the movie, and I would love for you guys to like click off the movie and come back to it after watching it and share your opinions down below in the comment section. Okay, but yeah, spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. So first up, Michael B. Jordan. Let me just say this. I've never got the hype about Michael B. Jordan. I've always thought he was handsome and attractive, but he never really did it for me, okay? But after watching this movie, yeah, I get why the girlies go up, okay? I get it. When I tell you I would have been a bird back in the day for Michael, for Smoking Stack would have got me, okay? I don't know if it's the southern accents. I don't know if it's the golds in the mouth. I don't even know if it's the beards in the suits. But the way, if one of them would have walked up on me at the juke joint, I would have went home with them. I would have let Stack turn me immediately. Immediately, okay? So I get it. I understand. Cause when the girls was going up for Michael when he was in Black Panther and Creed, I was like, yeah, he cute, but like he don't do it for me. He did it for me in this movie. Okay? He did it for me in this movie. And I love the color theory of the two couples represented in this movie. A lot of people say that it's lust versus love. And I see it, but I still think to a certain extent, Stack did have a lot of love for Mary. It was just, what's the word? It was just toxic love, I would say. Same with Annie and Smoke, because Smoke did Annie dirty too. But you could definitely tell there was more intimacy and connection between Smoke and Annie compared to Mary and Stack. And I love the color theory because I just noticed that like Annie and Smoke were shrouded in like blues and things of that nature, like different color blues. But then you had Stack was in like maroon, and when we meet Mary, she's in like champagne and blush, but then by the end of the movie she's covered in blood, so now she's covered in maroon. So like I was so excited to like run back home and look up the color theory because I want to talk about it, so we got to talk about it. See Smoke and Annie together, but they're both like shrouded in like blue. More so I took from this website. I was like, I feel like royal blue is what fits both of them to a T, or blue in general. And this is what it says, and I'll put the link to the website in the description box below. It says royal blue, the color of empathy and dependability. Royal blue is dignified and inherently superb. It is a reassuring, accepting, and kind-hearted. These attributes make royal blue a fan favorite. In the same breath, it can be domineering and edgy. It goes on to say with royal blue, you could get the good with the bad. And then on the side, it has like this symbolism. So dependability, empathy, royalty, and tranquility. It goes on to say that there's also aspects of like the positive symbolism and the negative one, where it's like positive is calming, reliable, caring, and selfless. And I feel like that's fits Annie. Like she is very calming, she's reliable, she's caring, she's selfless. The way when Smoke rolls up on her while she's in her like store or her apothecary, and she's giving these two little girls this like medicine or these herbs, and the girls give her money, but I guess it's like either plantation money or it's not real money. And like Smoke is like, girl, give me this and I'll give you real money. And she's like, no, I don't want your blood money, like this is better to me. But she doesn't even care because she knows she's helping her community. So I definitely was have Annie be like the selfless, like she's the positive aspect of blue. But then you have the negative aspect of blue, which I do think represents Smoke, which is depressing, tense, pompous, and controlling. Like you can definitely tell that Smoke was more of the like the alpha twin, the more controlling twin, like, but he also did care about Stack. Like he didn't play about his brother. Like he loved his brother down, okay? And I do believe like you can have like dual soulmates. Like you can have platonic soulmates and then romantic. And I really do feel like Stack was Smoke's soulmate. Like that was his soul. Like they're twins, that was his brother, okay? But so he was very controlling, but you could also tell that he was the twin walking around with like the weight of the world on him. Like he was very depressing. And as you watch the movie, you find out about like Annie's and Smoke's relationship and how they lost their baby, and how I found out that they were married. I thought, they had a fling and he dipped out on her, but they were married and he just left town because he couldn't handle the fact that they lost their child. And it's like, wow, like they do represent like the colors. Like I said, Annie is the positive attributes of Blue: selfless, caring, dependable. But also, she does have that negative aspect of Blue of being depressed. But then you see Smoke, who is the negative aspects of Blue, which is like controlling, pompous, very like overconfident, like unpredictable at times. And I was like, wow, okay, y'all did that with that color theory. So then we move over to Stack. Now, I felt like Stack was shrouded in maroon colors, but I saw people say like he's in red. But when I think of red, like I thought the suit was maroon. That's the color I saw. But this is what it says about red. It says the color of ambition and confidence. Regarded as one of the more distinct colors, maroon boasts an incredible strong personality, gentle, ambitious, and inspiring among its favorable traits. But maroon also has flaws that include being narcissistic, fickle, and flighty. And so it says the positive aspects of maroon are confident, strong, kind, and inviting. And I do think that Stack was the more like charming and personable twin. He was inviting, he was confident, he was strong. And the negative aspects of maroon is opinionated, moody, arrogant, and unpredictable. I do feel like he was the unpredictable twin. So I think that was the right color to shroud Stack in. But he was an inviting personality. You throughout the movie you could tell why Stack and Smoke worked together greatly as a team. Because you had this controlling brother, but he was dependable, which is Smoke. But then you had this charming but unpredictable brother that like could get you out of sticky situations, you know? And so we then get introduced to Mary. Mary, when we first see her, I think is like in Champagne. Like at the juke joint, she's in Champagne. But I think when we see her at the train station, it's like a blushy color. But I want to focus on the Champagne color. And it says this. It says, Champagne, the color of class and modesty. Champagne is a color that adores adoration. It is larger than life and has a powerful personality, but it still manages to remain modest. Moreover, it is positive, stylish, and chic. In the same breath, this color can be deceiving and overconfident. And I do think at times Mary was we saw her be deceiving. She's passing and she is like maybe 1/8 or 1/4 black. But and back then the 1 drop rule was very much a thing. So she was passing, and we had Stack sending her to Little Rock in Arkansas to marry this white man, even though she didn't want to marry him. She wanted to be with Stack, but he wanted her to have this better life. He sends her to Arkansas, where she passes as a white woman, to the point where her husband doesn't even know that she is a white woman. She goes to her mother's funeral by herself, because if he would have found out that she is, colored, it's up and it's stuck. She's in danger. So it says the positive attributes of Champagne is intoxicating, fun-loving, cheery, and fashionable. She definitely was intoxicating to Stack, okay? And then it says the negative symbolism of Champagne is misleading, daunting, deceptive, and intimidating. And I think she really fits that. So what's interesting is, as the story goes on, or as the movie goes on, she walks in Champagne, but because Mary gets turned and she's covered in blood, now she's adorned in like red. And so I looked up what red means, and it says it's the colors are passionate and energy. It says red draws attention like no other color and radiates a strong and powerful energy that motivates us to take action. It is also linked to sexuality, stimulates deep and intimate passion. Red is ubiquitously used to warn and signal action and danger. So the positive traits of red, they say sexuality, courage, desire, and confidence. And Mary was definitely given desire. Okay, she was definitely given. And then you have the negative ones is anger, danger, revenge, and aggression. She became the danger. Definitely the aggression. She definitely became all of that, okay? And revenge because she wanted to get Stack back, okay? Because he played with her heart. But I just, when you are a person that likes color theory, like I don't normally buy too much into it. I think some people can just like colors just to like them, but I do know like when it's implemented into movies and music videos and in books and things of that nature, it means something. So reading this makes me really enjoy the scenes with these two couples even more. And I know that it's the conversation is comparing the couples, like lust versus love. But I feel like both relationships to a certain extent were very toxic. Okay, you have Stack who pushed Mary away to go marry a white man, even though that is not what she wants. You lie to her, filling her head up. You make her feel good because he taught Sammy how to eat the box, put his face in the place. Shouts out to It's Rocks. And you don't write her, you don't tell her anything, so she's spending all this time pining after you, waiting for you because of your words. So you leave her, and then when you come back in town after her mother's funeral, you pretty much kind of like are still pushing her away, knowing that she's suffering from the loss of her mother. And Stack knew that Mary had feelings for him. And he had feelings for her, but them being together would have been dangerous. Here you have this white passing woman with this troublemaker of a black man. And it's 1920 something. He getting lynched and she getting killed too. So I understood him pushing her away and wanting her to have a better life because she could pass. But I don't think I do think people think about it, but I do sometimes feel like people that pass, especially like black people that can't pass, you think it's like it's the cowardice way out, but it's also when someone forces you to live that type of way, it is probably very like isolating. And I feel like that is the reason why Mary wanted to be at the juke joint. Like, I want to be amongst my people. Like, I am connected to these people as well. These are my people. I grew up with y'all. I went to church. I went to school with y'all. Like, I want to be connected to you guys. And Stack was constantly pushing her away from that. But I will say when you compare Smoke and Stack's relationship, there was more love between an intimacy between Smoke and Annie, but like it still was toxic because that man ran to Chicago after the lady gave birth and the baby died. Like, you were supposed to stay in Mississippi or at least take her with you to Chicago to help her begin a new life, and you just left her to deal with those depressing and sad feelings, but you couldn't stay away from her. And that's why when people were saying online that they felt like they thought Annie was the mother of Smoke and Stack, I said, how did you figure that out? When they first stepped up on the scene together and Smoke walked up into that like apothecary, that shack with all the goodies, like the store, the way he looked at her and the way she looked at him, it was giving either their childhood friends who've always had these feelings for each other, but they never acted on it. And maybe she got married to another man and he get like, she wanted to be with Smoke, but she knew she couldn't be a part of that lifestyle. That's the story I had in my head. But then when I found out that they were married and they had a baby, the baby died and he left her, I was like, oh, it's definitely given like that's his old lady and he still got them feelings, because the way he took her down and the way she let him take her down, the way they was licking and sucking, I said, oh my God. I don't know how anybody, and it could be just because I consume a lot of media, but I also feel like y'all saw a dark-skinned, full-figured, 4C black woman and was like, Michael B. Jordan's character Smoke could never find her attractive, because there's no way that y'all thought that lady was his mama. Because when they walked in and he looked at her and she looked at him, it was giving so much like, ugh, I hate that this man is here, but I missed him. It was giving so much of that. But I will say he did respect Annie more. Smoke respected Annie more than Stack respected Mary, because Stack really was not trying to listen to Mary. Mary had to argue her points with Stack. Whereas with Smoke and Annie, Smoke gave Annie pushback, but ultimately he always acquiesced to what she wanted. Like, it wasn't that much of him putting up a fight. It was always him being like, Okay, girl. Yeah, she right. I'm gonna listen to my girl. Like, so I do feel like their relationship, Smoke and Annie's relationship, was more, but it's both relationships were still toxic to me. Okay. So next is Sammy. Okay. So we have Sammy, who I feel is the everyman character of the movie. And actually, to me, the main focal point, the main protagonist of the movie. I think Smoke and Stack are just like, they're the deuteragonists, like they're the secondary characters. But like to me, Sammy was the main focal point of the movie because we meet Sammy in the beginning of the movie. He's holding on to like his smashed up prized possession, which was a guitar given to him by Stack and Smoke. He's driving their car. He just experienced the worst night of his life. Okay, he got caught up with the vampires. He done seen everybody die. He comes to church. It's Sunday morning. We find out that his family are sharecroppers because as the movie continues, we see Sammy picking cotton in the fields, but we know his father is the local preacher of the town. And so Sammy gets to church. He opens up the church doors. He's holding on to the neck of the guitar. He has slashes across his face. He's covered in blood. His mom sees him and she's like, Sammy, oh my God. And the daddy is like, be still, my sister. Like, be still, my wife. And the dad's like, come, Sammy, come. He says, I see you've been tangoing with the devil, relinquish your hold on this music and repent and be welcomed back into the church. And I'm like, your son, you don't even know what he has faced, but it's definitely given he almost got lynched by a white mob. What we doing, sir? There's no like, let me embrace you. Let me clean you up. What has happened to you? You just want me to give up my gift? And I think a lot of like Black Christians who felt like the movie was demonic, as someone who I feel like I would consider myself as a Christian, I believe in a higher power. I believe in God, but I also feel like everybody's walk with the Lord is their own. And I like the ending. I like the ending because at the end, you see Sammy make a decision for himself. And like I just said, like your spiritual walk, in my opinion, is yours alone. Like, you can't just always listen to like your parents and what you've been taught. Like as you get older, you start to have your own life experiences and you have to make that decision for yourself. And I love at the end of the movie, that's what Sammy did. That's what Preacher Boy did. When his daddy told him to give up his guitar, I was like, boy, you better not give up that guitar, because that guitar is your gift. That guitar is how you minister to people. That guitar is what was that your ability to like sing and captivate people. That's a gift from God, and ultimately that is what saved him. It also is what drew Remick to him, but it also is what saved him. And there's a one specific scene that I think people get frustrated about, or the Christians got upset about, is when Remick starts to mock Sammy when he's singing the Lord's Prayer, as Remick has him like choked up and about to like murk him, and he's doing like a reverse baptism because Sammy starts saying the Lord's Prayer, and Remick is like, oh, they taught you that one too? I know that one too. So he starts saying it, because what you find out is Remick is an Irish vampire, and we all know, or if you don't know, the Irish people went through a horrible colonization by the Catholic, as well as when some of them came over here to America, they weren't even seen as white. Like, they were seen as less than white as well. They weren't seen as Black, but they were seen as white as well. And they were also indentured servants. They weren't slaves. Some of them were, but they could get their way out of slavery. Not like Black people could, But they had experienced persecution too. So when Sammy starts singing the prayer and Remick starts mocking him, a lot of people took offense to that. But I was like, Remick is still trying to connect to Sammy, just to show him like, I've been through what you've been through too. But ultimately, the guitar that Sammy had in his hand, that his gift, his tool that was given to him by his cousins, that magnified his gift that was given to him, he used that to clock that thing upside the head, okay? And set himself free. So I was so happy at the end of the movie when Sammy made the choice to go his own way. And I was like, as you should, Sammy. Now, you's pissing me off with you and Pearline, but we about to talk about that. So the side characters, Pearline, Delta Slim, Grace, Bo, and Cornbread, great side characters, okay? Great side characters. Delta Slim, Delroy Lindo, it's still crazy to me that he's actually British, but he's been here in America so long, he doesn't even have a British accent, really. You can kind of hear it pop out when he when he speaks like in interviews, but like it's almost gone. He did such an amazing job being Delta Slim. He was the comedic relief of the movie, but he also was like so like such a very important character. There's a moment in the movie where he's telling this story that like I you know it's important to listen to our elders. I know right now a lot of people have a lot of ageist views about like our ancestors and like our older family members, because it's like some of them are stuck in their ways, some of them don't have very like progressive thinking, but like their stories are still important too. And the story that Delta Slim tells Stack and Sammy, aka Preacher Boy, while they're in the car on their way to the juke joint was such a like, it was so haunting. It was a haunting story, and the way that they played it out, I was like, oh, that's a special scene right there. I can see a lot of movies coming out from now on doing the same cinematography where someone is telling the story. And I mean, like, it's a common thing, but the sounds that you hear as Delta Slim is speaking and the way that Delroy played his character, you did that. You did that. Then you have Perline, who is like Sammy's like object of affection in the movie. She got on my nerves, but I loved her. Though when she started singing, she's gifted too. Like the scene where she's singing as they're beating up somebody, and they did the jumping. I don't know, that like had my heart beating. I was like, come on, jump! Hey, I was like, okay. And Cornbread, he was hilarious too. Just let me in. No, like Annie said, dude, you twice the size as everybody in here. Why can't you just walk up in here, Cornbread? And after Cornbread got turned, and he was like, no, just let me in. He was like, let me in. The side characters, oh my gosh. And then the Native Americans. This was my second favorite scene. My favorite scene overall was the juke joint scene when Sammy is singing and we see all those renditions of musicians, like black musicians and black music. But the Native Americans, the Chickasaw people, oh, I rocks with it. We need a Native American vampire hunter movie. I need it, Ryan Coolidge, however you say that man's last name. I need a Native American vampire hunting movie, because there's a scene, and let me set the scene for you. So we see Remick. He burnt up, mangled up. When I tell you, whatever the Chickasaw people did to him, they was beating his ass, okay? And he got away from them. So he stumbles onto this house, like in the middle of nowhere, pretty much. And it's this couple. They open the door, guns a-blazing. Remick ends up showing them like gold doubloons, because that's how old he is. He from the era that had pirates, okay? And he's begging them to let him in. But you also, they do a scene where they pan the camera and you see a Klansman outfit. So now he knows who they are. So now he's trying to persuade them, like, let me in. Like, I'm just this white man that got caught up by the Native Americans, Like they took me out, I was just trying to help them, And so they let him into the house, okay? Stupid, okay? So the Native Americans pull up, okay? They pull up on 2 horses and in a car. You got the main guy, he gets out the car, he knocks on the door. The wife, again, comes to the door, guns a-blazing. He ends up saying to him, like, ma'am, I think you might be in danger. I think you have possibly allowed somebody in your home. If you this person in here, like someone covered in bruises, like we here to help and save you. She basically tells them, no, he ain't here, and get off my porch. There was one of the Native Americans that was on this horse. I rocks with him because he noticed the 3 crows that were already above the couple's house. And mind you, if you go look at, when you go back or you rewatch the movie, the same 3 crows, when Remick and the couple, now that they're turned, pull up to the juke joint, is at the juke joint. I said, oh, so the Native American guy notices the 3 crows top of the house. He also is like noticing it's getting dark. And mind you, I talked about this on TikTok, and someone told me that in the Chickasaw community, they have often been taught you don't go outside after a certain time after dark. So that's true to their story. The man on the horse speaks to the dude on the porch in his language. He basically says, bro, she don't want our help. It's getting dark. Let's go. They hop in the car and they dip all the way out. And I loved it because I feel oftentimes in horror movies and in thrillers, black people and people of color overly extend themselves to the other side. Like they overly try to like help people, try to like warn people, and it's to our detriment. And I love the fact that they gave that couple, they told that lady, whoever is in your house is evil. Okay, we trying to help you. She said she didn't want it. There was no begging her. There was no pleading. They jumped into that car and they said, we got to go. I said, come on, let's go. Because I would have been in that car too. I would have honked that horn. It's getting dark. We got to go home. Okay, and that's what they did. But Ryan, I want a Native American vampire hunter movie. I do, because I want to know how they beat Remick's ass. Okay, because he got toe up. Okay. One thing I want to say, I feel like a lot of people I've seen have not touched upon the crows, because crows do symbolize death. And I'm like, when Remick and that crew pulled up to the juke joint and I saw them crows, I said, death is in the building. Everybody about to die. My God, today. In that scene of when Mary went outside to speak to them, if you notice, you couldn't see Remick or the other two people's, I think the guys like Randall and Lola, you couldn't see their eyes, but you could see Mary's eyes. But Mary's eyes were kind of like, what's the word? Kind of like shadowed as well, but you could still see them, but you couldn't see their eyes. I said, Mary, it's the devil. Get away from them. And another scene that I really enjoyed was the garlic scene. So the rest of the people are stuck in the juke joint, who pretty much locked up the doors and was trying to, stay safe until sunrise. And because ultimately Remick wanted Sammy. Remick saw the way that Sammy called upon his ancestors, and because Remick is a vampire and he's no longer able to tap into his people, he wanted somebody that could. He wanted that. He desperately wanted Sammy's gift and wanted Sammy to be a part of his coven. Because what is given is that Remick has probably started to make covens time and time again, but maybe they haven't worked out for him. And, he's an old vampire, but he's lonely as well. Like, his place was colonized. His people were taken from him. And I think he was relating to the he was relating to black people, but he also was being oppressive at the same time, because you weren't giving them a choice. You were just infecting them, biting them, making them be basically a hive mind, a cult for you. Like, they had free will, but because of how old Remick probably is, like I said, he had gold doubloons from, pirates. He had the ability to have a hive mind. So it's just like, you're lonely, but also, girl, you're also implementing white supremacist tactics. So you got to go, Remick. Although I can sympathize with your loneliness and you being oppressed, you got to still go. So there's a scene in the movie where they're still trying to figure out who's a vampire. So Annie is telling everyone, eat these cloves of garlic, because we got to see who's a vampire. So everybody's eating the garlic. We get to Perlene's ass. Perlene talking about, I don't like garlic. When I tell you I would have popped Perlene, click, click. The way Michael B. Jordan, smoke was, the way he was airing out the clips, I said, air the clip out on her, because my nerves can't take it, girl. I just seen a dead man come back to life and bust through a door. Perlene and them had just saw Cornbread get clicked in the face, get up, eat another person, another human being, and you don't want to eat this garlic. Perlene would have got, she would have got popped. Then Slim, Delta Slim, when I tell you I don't have the patience and my nerves wouldn't be able to take him eating the garlic and him getting indigestion, I would have thought, oh, it's not sitting right with you. You a vampire. Pop. No, my nerves wouldn't be able, I can't be in them type of stressful situations. Okay. But it was that was my third favorite scene, because the way everybody was looking at her, and Slim, and then Sammy deserved to get that gun to the face, because Sammy was trying to stick up for Perlene, because Smoke pulled out his gun and was like, girl, and Sammy, what's it called? Smoke hit Sammy in the face. I said, you deserve that, because did you not just see what we just saw? Your cousin just came back to life, and now him and his girl is trying to turn all of us. She got to go. What's wrong with you, Sammy? You being hot in the ass. You just met this lady. But Grace and Bo. Grace and Bo, they're that couple. I'm just glad they added the Chinese Americans to the story because it gave an extra layer to the story. And it also kind of taps on like colorism in the Asian community, because when we get introduced to Bo and Grace, I definitely think if Grace got turned before Bo, and Bo was the one that was in the juke joint trying to wait it out with everybody, I don't think he would have pulled what Grace did. I don't think he would have like crashed out as bad as Grace did, because Grace's character has so much like duality. On one end, people see her as like, you know, a traitor to the Black community. Here you have Black people inviting you into their spaces, into their homes, like we patron your business. But yet the moment you felt like your people were in danger, you just said F the community and you screwed everybody over. And ultimately she died in the end in a blaze of glory. I'll give her credit for that. She won't no bitch when she went out. Grace made that Molotov cocktail, however you say it, and said, let's go, bitch. Let's go. But she created her own demise, because mind you, if she would have just stood in solidarity, they probably could have saved her daughter, even though they were threatening her. And I feel as though if Bo was a juke joint, he would not have like turned on the people so quickly. But I also feel like it's a commentary on like colorism in the Asian community, because Grace is a lot lighter than Bo. Bo had some type of kinship, and he was the one working the store on the Black side of the street, while Grace was working the store on the white side. So so that to me is another added layer. Like the moment things got hot in the juke joint, Grace was like, baby, we got to go. And I mean, I understand self-preservation too, because I would have went and got my daughter too. But still, girl, we invited you to the community. I loved it. Now, I'm going to be honest, Grace is better than me, because the way that Bo came to that door after getting turned, talking about, baby, the car is warmed up. Let's go. Y'all, I would have turned into a bird. I would have immediately been like, you know what, y'all, it's been nice. It's been great. My man outside, I got to go. Especially when he leaned up on the door frame and them eyes started glowing. I said, oh, I had to sit up in my chair watching the movie. I said, oh, girl, I would have caved. When that man said, baby, the car warmed up, let's go. Ooh, I would have turned into a bird so quick. I mean, you know what? I'd have been like, you know, being a vampire ain't that bad, y'all. It's not that bad. You know, I like the sun, but you know, nightlife is better. That would have been me. And then Remick, I'm not going to lie, let it be a time I was ovulating and Remick starts speaking to me in Chinese, because that's after he bit Bo. So now he has Bo's like memories and stuff. Ooh, that Irish man would have got me. That Irish man would have got me. I'd have been no good. No good. So yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below and share your thoughts with me. I want to know how people feel about this movie. You know, give me your perspective, okay? Like the video, comment, and subscribe. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.